Greetings. Just thought we should find out today about the purchase of Alaska. The United States purchased Alaska from Russia in 1867 for $7.2 million. There's a little bit more to the story, so that's what we're going to do for a few minutes, and then that'll be that. So, you can see a map of kind of Eurasia and North America, and you can see that between Russia and Alaska, there's a little body of water. And there was a Danish-born Russian navigator named Vitus Bering that found his way back and forth and said, hey, this is all one body of water. There's not a land bridge here. And that happened in 1728, so well before the United States was even founded. In the 1750s is when Russia claimed it and started settling it. Of course, they didn't settle it with very many people because Alaska's a tough environment, but so is Siberia for that matter. So from the 1750s all the way through George Washington, all the way to, the 1850s, Russia settled a little bit in Alaska to try different things. Their big success was otter fur until they kind of over-hunted that and wiped out so many of them. And then in the 1850s, the turning point occurred that would lead us to being able to purchase it from them. So in the 1850s, there was a war called the Crimean War. Put it up on the screen there. And in that war, the Russians were at war with Britain and a couple other countries, and Russia fought that war on Russian territory and were very, very nervous about what the British might do with their possession of Alaska. But the biggest thing was, hey, I just hate Britain, so I'm not going to let them have my Alaska. So Russia started pondering, since I'm not making very much money from it, and it's so far away and it takes almost a year to get communication from Alaska all the way to Moscow, maybe I should get rid of it, and I don't want it to go to Britain. I don't want Canada to be that much bigger, so I've got to find someone else. But because of a lot of the slavery issues in America in the 1850s, even though some territories were coveted, and James Buchanan, the last president before the Civil War, actually really toyed with getting Cuba, for the most part, there was just kind of a freeze on, hey, let's not add more territories. And then the Civil War came. Well, the Civil War came 1861-65. The Civil War came in 1861, the same year that the Russians found some gold in Alaska. And they had seen what America did with the gold rush of 1848-49. And they didn't want to just lose Alaska to nothing. So they wanted to sell it, but during our Civil War, we were just not in a position or in the mood to buy a territory way up north by the North Pole. So nothing was really done until 1867. In 1867, the Russians, still very antagonistic towards the British, were looking to sell it to America because they didn't see America as any kind of a threat, not long-term or any other way. It's like, hey, that's a country that'll give Britain grief. And the ambassador for the Russians is told by the Russian Tsar, I want you to sell this for at least $5 million. So the Russian ambassador comes to William Seward, our Secretary of State, and says, we would like to sell this to you. What would you bid for it? And Seward bids $5 million right off the top. And the Russian's thinking, wow, if he starts at 5, maybe he'll pay more than 5, and I would be very in good stead with the Tsar, so I'll just kind of quietly sit here and go, you sure that's all you want to bid? And then Seward pushed it up to 6, and Seward eventually pushed it up all the way to 7. And the Russian's thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to get a raise for this? So he's like, okay, we'll do it for $7 million. And then Seward starts discussing the hardship of talking everybody in Congress into buying this never snowland up there by the North Pole. So he makes it very clear that the government of the United States will very likely not pass it. Like that Seward in and of himself is not enough of a power to just say, yes, we'll buy it. So they discuss it some more, and they come up with the following compromise. The United States will buy it for $7.2 million. 7.2, not just 7. 7.2 million. The 0.2 million, or 200,000, will be taken by the Russians and then given back under the table to pay off some congressmen to vote for the purchase of Alaska as a bribe. And that happened. I'll have a couple of names and a couple numbers up there, but a lot of it's, of course, murky because some records were burned up on purpose so people wouldn't be found guilty of anything unscrupulous. So the 0.2 million is given back primarily to the United States to pay off senators and congressmen and all for the purchase. That takes place in 1867. Then the United States couldn't get the money, so the Russians actually bribed a few more congresspeople to push through the check to get the 7.2 million over to Russia, and Russia sold it. Now, that was in 1867, just 2 years after the Civil War was over. Well, that territory, Alaska, became and stayed an American territory for a very long time. In 1898, we took some islands called Hawaii, and then in World War II, against the Japanese fought some small little battles in the Aleutian Islands, and they also, of course, attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. And so because of some of that patriotic aspect of what happened in World War II, both places, Alaska and Hawaii, became states. Alaska preceding Hawaii by a few months. Alaska became a state in January of 1959, and they have been a state ever since. They got 3 electoral votes when they became a state. They still have 3. There's just not that many people. I don't believe even all of Alaska has even 1 million people. And yet the fun number that I looked up was what a bargain it was. So the United States bought Louisiana Purchase in 1803, and I have a map up there. And if you do the math, we paid about 3 cents an acre for that. And it was an amazing, rich farmland and everything else. It was certainly a bargain times a million. That we didn't ask any of the Native Americans who lived in Louisiana Purchase that the purchase was okay is troubling, but we'll skip that for now. Then when we bought Alaska, you do the math, and that comes to about 2 cents an acre. Well, later on in time, we found oil there. And even though I've just looked up one number just to give you how ridiculous this is, in 2019, just 5 years ago, Alaska made $2.7 billion from oil production. $2.7 billion. And the United States purchased it for $7.2 million. Wow. So the last quick thing I want to just say is that the gold situation. The gold was discovered in Alaska in 1861, but the United States was fighting the Civil War at the time, so there was no gold rush, there was no nothing. But that's one of the big reasons Russia wanted to sell it right after the Civil War, was before their gold was really discovered. In 1896, there was a discovery of gold in the Klondike up there, and that did have a big, huge gold rush. And that was kind of a crazy story and a worthwhile thing to read a book about if you get a minute. I will say, too, that from Russia to Alaska, not including the islands between them, there's 55 miles. If you go to the islands between them, they're only 2.5 miles or so. And you have a good day. Thank you.